Here we're going to go through one of our customer sent in sand samples, and we'll show you how we do analysis at Vantage Equestrian. So here we like to get a full sample from your arena. We like to make sure it is an equivalent sample of throughout your entire base of sand. So we want to make sure it's in the top layer, mid layer, all the way down to your base set. We like it shipped in a quart bag about this to make sure we get a good representative sample. And what we first do is we take your sand, get a good portion of it, put it in one of our oven tins to then do a bake and make sure we remove all moisture. To make sure we get a good history though, we also like to save a sample for us to put it back into our archives in case we need to look at it later for any other future modifications to your sand. So once we get a good sample of your sand, we then take it over to our oven and cook it at 400 degrees for about 30 minutes to make sure all moisture is driven out so we can get accurate weight measurements to get the full profile of your sand. So once your sand is fully dry, we then take it over to our sieve where we go through and actually separate the different size granules to make sure we can get a good consistency of the full profile of your sand in the arena. So what the sieve does is we get a whole stack of these sieve plates that have very different size mesh plates in them, which allows different size of the grain particles to actually work their way through so that we can get a full variation of what is in your arena in the different size. So here's our biggest mesh plate, and here's sort of that mid size where we go all the way down to our finest where you can barely see through that at all, and that only gets your very fine particles to really tell us what is going on in your sand. And below our finest 270 mesh, we really want to find out those fines that pass through and sit in the bottom of the pan, where this is where all that silk gets captured to notice how fine the very end of your sand really is. Now we got them all stacked back in order and they're ready to go into the sieve. Once we get the sieve fully put together, we can pull in that sand sample and get it to start separating your sand. Now that your sample is in the sieve, we're ready to get it started. You bring the top down to make sure all those sand particles are captured in, and we can turn on that sieve. Now that the shaker is done, we're going to take it apart and find out all the different elements of your sand. So taking out each different sieve tray with the different mesh sizes one by one, we can really fine tune the different profile throughout your sand. So here's a sieve of the coarsest sand. We take it over to our pan, knock it out, really make sure we get all of those particles out so we get an accurate measurement. Once all the sand is out of that sieve, we put it into our measurement tray, throw it on our scale, record it for later. Now that we got the measurement for the coarse sand, we enter the value into our archive and we move it over to our display tray. Now that we got the most coarse setting done, we continue to work down our sieves as it continues to get finer and finer. Now we're through the full set of sieves. We make our way down to the pan where it has the very fine silt, which can make up part of your sand. Now that we got all your sand separated, we have it out in a full sample tray where we'll take a picture and send it in your sand analysis report. Now that we're done looking at the full gradation of the sand, we're going to take a small sample, stick it under our microscope to really find out what your grain shape looks like. So now that we got our sample under the microscope, we can see we got a good visualization of what each of the grain shapes look like, and we can take a picture for further analysis.